Welcome, world. Welcome, 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 world. Welcome, world. So excited to have you join us for this edition of Shiz and Giggles. My name is Andrea Lyons. I'm your host this week. So excited to be here. Love it, love it, love it. Having a good time. Had a heck of a week. Never by myself, though. And I'm not even always here all the time. So I'm back. I'm back to Shiz and Giggles, back in the captain's chair. All right, I'm going to bring in first co host for today, my good friend, also colleague, also pal, Jasmine Williams. Jasmine, hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Andrea. I'm so happy to be here today. It's a lovely Friday. Well, it was raining earlier, but the sun has came out, so we're happy to be here.
So glad to have you, Jasmine. All right, who else do we have? We have, oh, a girl after my own heart. We call her appointments because she always has them and lets us know about it. Excuse me, I have an appointment, right? She has meetings. So she just started a couple weeks ago, too. It's like, how do you have meetings? My girl, we Sam. Come on, Hazime. How you doing, girl?
Doing great. What an introduction.
Ms. Appointments. How are you doing? How was your week?
It's been pretty good. Definitely slower than last week. And it's just been all around a good week. And I'm just happy and refreshed and re energized.
Ooh, I love to hear that. Ooh, because that is our topic. So I came across this article, Forbes magazine, a little while back. Great article about self care. And let me tell you, just kind of, I'm going to point out a few key features of it. And I think we have producer, or Casey, our producer today, who, if she could throw up really quick an article on self care from Forbes. Really great article about self care is not an indulgence, it's a discipline. Self care is not an indulgence, it's a discipline. Love, love, love the article. So I thought we could talk about self care. One of the things that was really interesting in the article that kind of stands out to me is the way that self care is marketed as a luxury, primarily for white women to indulge in, and while still having to take care of other responsibilities. So it's this concept of, yeah, take care of yourself, but you still are responsible to take care of everyone else, rather than self care being a priority for you in your life and viewed as a form of discipline in your life. So I thought we'd talk about that today. I think it'd be so, so, so very good. Thanks to our producer. Good topic. What I want to do is just kind of kick it over to the team really quickly and just ask you, how would you define self-care, for yourself? How would you define self-care? I'll start with you, Jasmine.
Thanks, Andre. Well, I love this topic personally, only because I've started to dive into self care a little more. Giving background, before I wasn't too. I want to say I wasn't a fan of self care, but I didn't take the necessary steps to make sure that I was well equipped and prepared for my weeks, my days, my months. So I define self care to me as personal, intimate time. So that can be doing a couple of different things. That could be doing, let's say, just having a day in the home and not doing any work, not answering my phone. It could be an outing of my own, where that's going to eat by myself, going to the movies, which I love to do. So I think self care to me is an intimate moment for myself where I can just, relax. It's definitely a relaxation time.
I love that. So you're defining it as like it's for yourself, an intimate time for yourself. I could make a joke, I won't, but that's really very, very good. What about you, Wee Sam? How would you define self care?
I want to say first, I really do love how Jasmine defined it. Mine, in a sense, is how I'll re energize so that I can feel refreshed and ready to keep going. And that looks in different forms for me, whether it's just spending time with people who I know will kind of lift me up, or maybe even similar to Jasmine, just kind of watching a movie and not looking at my phone and just how I can re-energize myself, because it's so easy to like be burnt out. So I just want to
Yeah, it
prevent that.
is. So true. And we have a job, and not even our job. I used to say it's our job causes burnout. But I mean, I just can't imagine what is this, week 6 of school, week 7 of school, if I had to be part-time teacher, part-time employee, part-time, like, or full-time teacher, full-time employee, full-time, all these other spouse, full-time, all these other roles. How do you make time for yourself in that when you have, we're carrying in this time particularly at least 3 full-time jobs. There's 3 full-time jobs at play. How or when do you make time for yourself? I mean, on a weekly basis or what have you. So, recently, as I was reading the article, it was talking about ways or examples for self care, and so one of those is turning off the TV, which I don't know if anybody saw TV last night, but talk about the most divided form of television that I've ever seen in my entire life. I haven't had that long of a life, but the point is, I was like, this is this is one of those a house divided will surely fall moments. So it was really, I understood what was happening, but it just really is like, man, this doesn't sit well in my soul. And so those are the types of things that sometimes you just have to turn them off. One of the other things about self-care, an example of self-care that the article mentioned, is saying no to the thing you don't want to do, even if someone else is going to be angry at you, is a form of self care because you're prioritizing yourself over someone else's feelings. I don't know if any of you have had experience with that. I don't, Jasmine. I'm bringing you in, but I only know because you probably have. But what do you think? What are examples you guys have of disciplined forms of self care?
I know. I agree with what you said, Andrea, specifically when you said saying no to things, even though they'll make the other person feel bad. I'm a yes person. I like to say like yes, only because I like to please the other person, whether that be my friends, my family, even sometimes clients and colleagues. Like I like to please everyone. And sometimes you do have to say no if it's something that's out of your whether that's out of your pay grade or that's out of your caliber, what you have access to, whether you have time for your friends and your family. So I know that's something I struggle with and working on. But saying all that, I kind of forgot what the question was.
Yeah, so the question is all about what are examples of self-care, with one of them being saying no, another one being letting people take care of themselves. So what's an example that you have for what you do for self-care?
One thing, as I kind of alluded to in the beginning, I love taking days for myself. So one thing I'm actually looking for excited to doing this weekend, I'm going to the movies. I know we're in a pandemic. I know that. But that's something that I enjoyed doing even from a young kid. That's something that my father, father and I, that was our time together. That's what something that we enjoy doing together. So I still carry that on to this day. We still even go to movies together. I went with him like a couple of weeks ago. So that is kind of like my alone me time. Similar to what you said, Andrea, about like turning off the TV. I started even like turning off my phone, not really turning it off, but like not using my phone. So after work, I'll come home, I'll get on it to catch up because I'm not really on it like while I'm at work. And then after I'm on it for like about an hour or two, then, which is a long time, I know that, but I'll turn it off, or not won't turn it off, but I'll literally turn it over, put it in my room, or like put it somewhere that I know like it's not easy accessible for me, especially if I'm in my living room. So I put my phone in my room so I don't have access to it. But it helps me not be so anxious and I'm too deep into the world, what's going on, whether it be my email, my text messages, social media. So those are ways that I like to indulge in self-care. But yeah.
So I one of the things that I find interesting is that, or best summed up, is that self care is taking care of yourself in a way that doesn't require you to indulge in order to restore balance. So it's taking care of yourself in a way that doesn't require you to indulge in order to restore balance. I know for quite some time, and even now, I still have indulgences that I call self care, but I'm totally indulging. Whether it's dining and imbibing, that I do on Fridays. Typically, I kind of have my own, it's a ritual, but I don't know that it's self care. And that's something that I'm going to evaluate for myself, just as a result of this article is, are the things that I do that I consider it self care, my like wine Fridays, my delicious wine Fridays, like delicious, yummy wine Fridays. Is that self care or is that just a ritual? And I think that there's a difference between the two, especially if you don't have to indulge to restore balance. And I like I said, I mischaracter a lot. But Sam, I'm going to ask you, what are some things that you do for your own self care? If you had to give some examples for other people, what do you do? Sam, I'm gonna stop you here because I know it's so good, but I want you to have other people be able to hear it as well. So we're gonna have to make sure that you're all the people can hear you by unmuting your microphone.
Sorry. Yeah, so basically I was very interested in how you said the ritual versus self-care because as I was thinking of my answer, I caught myself thinking, maybe that's a ritual because one thing for me is driving. I'll just go on a drive, like back roads drive, with some music, and that's a form of self-care for me. I can just kind of disconnect. I'm not on my phone. I just don't need to check my phone because I'm driving. And another thing I do is taking walks. This is something that started for me, especially during like quarantine. Taking walks, just a daily, even 15-minute walk without music, even, and just kind of enjoy nature and re energize in that form. I think those are my two main things. And then another thing I do is like cook, like a little bit of a fancier meal for myself.
Yummy. That sounds yummy. I'll tell you what I do, and I did it this week. So I'm gonna out some people here, and let me apologize in advance to my friends who texted me and asked me did I want to do something this weekend, and let me apologize to the people who said I was gonna call them back and I didn't. So let me let me start with the apologies first. But I'll tell you what I do for my own self care is I limit my excitement because we have a very exciting job at our company. We do events, virtual in-person events, and they're super 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 exciting, but what I do for myself is I limit my excitement on the outside. So I enjoy very calm experiences when I'm not on or in show. We call it being in show. So as long as I'm not in show, I love calm experiences. So I had one person say, hey, do you want to do something this evening? Hey, there's a new opening of a new spot. And I'm like, no. No is the answer to that. I need calm people around me. I need calm stability around me. So I love hanging around people that they're like, man, it's like smooth water with them. It's consistent, it's clean, it's pure, it's calm. I don't like the up and the down and all of that. It just as I get older, especially, I think it's much more important. So I kind of limit what my intake is in general. So I also had somebody ask me about like, hey, do you want to go grab drinks? I was like, I'm sleepy. I'm so sleepy. I think I need to focus on restoring my battery, to make sure that I show up next week when we have, several events and two of them on the same day for one very large company, one for a client that is a client that we've had forever. And so, we value all those relationships. So I got to show up. next week. So I got to take that time now to just restore my battery. So just to kind of round things out here, and because this is kind of my like my big question for all of you, if you had to give advice to someone else, and let's pretend that advice was the younger you, things where you are like, I wish the future me would think the past me if, right? So what advice about, or when are moments that you've had where you wish you could go back into that moment in time and say, hey, don't do this way. It's not going to work for you. Does anybody have that? I know I certainly do. I certainly do. Jasmine, Sam, I'll leave it up to you for who wants to go first, but I'd love to hear about that.
I think so. This isn't a particular moment, but rather a length of time. My senior year of high school, when I was editor of the yearbook, I put a lot of stress on myself, and I was constantly on. I was up until 4 a.m. almost every night. It was a constant go, go, go. I wish I could go back and tell myself to take it easy and take it a little bit slower, because work doesn't stop. Life is going to keep throwing challenges and curveballs at you, and it's about approaching it with a more calm sense than a really like high stress, anxious sort of mindset. That's something I've learned through that, and I wish I could go back and tell myself, just this isn't a moment where you should be so stressed out. Take it easy. And that's something I've learned now. I'm not as sort of like high strung, like always like on edge.
That takes practice, though, Sam. I don't think you come out of the box, having. I've seen you, I've witnessed you in the office not melt under pressure. And I think it's just kind of like, it's really inspiring to watch you. I think you do it really, really, really well. And when I was your age, I certainly wasn't that way. Hey, I'll tell you what, a year ago, I wasn't that way. I wasn't that way. I think I have just now assumed that posture of like, you know what, come what may, and I'm going to be okay. Right. So I've just now gotten that far. What about you, Jazz? Any stories about what you would tell your younger self about if you could go back into that moment in time and say, hey, past Jazz, chill out.
Definitely going back to what you said in the beginning of saying no. There have been thousands of times, millions of times I cannot count, when I should have said no or not taken on so much, knowing that I was not capable of fulfilling it all, even though to some degree I was. But that wasn't good for my, not just like physical health, but like mental health, emotional health. So there's definitely, I remember vividly one birthday year in college, and I had an event for school that same day for my sorority, and it was the same day as my birthday. So my birthday falls in line with this event. I was the chair of the event, so I was like, like the main person getting everything together, but I took on so much that day because I told everyone, oh, I got it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And literally at the end of the day, I was burnt out. I literally started crying at the end of the event because I was so burnt out. And I was like, this is supposed to be my birthday. I said yes to too many things. So I wasn't even enjoying myself for that event or even just the day in general. So I would definitely go back and tell myself it's okay to say no. I think that would be my main thing, but also that self-care isn't a bad thing. I've always thought, like, whenever I see people go out and like splurge and so much money on doing things for themselves, I was like, why are you spending that so much money on yourself? Like what? Like aren't you always supposed to be saving money? Even though your self-care activities don't have to be money heavy, like you don't have to spend a lot of money on. But I did find that a lot of people were. So I tell myself like, why would you do that? Why, like, what's the point? But I learned over the course of time, that's just what they do for self-care. And it's okay to, it's okay to have to do what you want to do if that makes you happy, as long as it's reasonable. I will say that. But so there are times where I'm like, Jasmine, just do what you want to do. Just do what you want to do. It's okay. It's okay to spend this much money on yourself. It's okay to do this. It's okay to do that. So I wish I would have told myself that as well if I was younger. But going into the future me, I'm definitely going to keep with that. Like, say no if you have to. And it's okay to treat yourself every once in a while.
I love that. All right, so here I go. I'm going to go on my rant, and these are my key takeaways. These are my life lessons from Andrea. I feel like you only know stuff once you go through the fire, right? And apparently fire loves me, so cuz I've been in them, quite a few of them. And I'll agree with you, Jasmine. The first thing you said was permission, giving yourself the permission to say I'm worth it. I'm worthy of it. I need time for me. I'm okay with having my time. That's so, 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 so very important. And so I think that's the number one thing is you give yourself permission to take care of you first, right? Everybody has all of the cliches about you secure your own oxygen mask before assisting others. I mean, all of those are very accurate and very true. But I can't show up for you, my family, my spouse, my partner, if I am not whole. And so I have to be whole for me first. And so whether or not that's a ritual or it is indeed self-care, right? And for me, I'm the more I think about it, I really am of the mindset, man, I got rituals, but I don't know that I do self-care as a discipline. I don't think I do. And I really need to figure that out, what that looks like. So whether it's a ritual or it's discipline, that's the other part that you have to determine what is best for you. And here's the big thing. Nobody should or could or shall tell you what that is for yourself. I have seen that on so many people who say, and bosses do it. I do it. So I'll tell my employee, hey, why don't you go take the day off, right? And that's like, okay, but that may not be self-care for them because when they're at home, they have so many more responsibilities that are stressful. So I've been known to do that to people where I define for them their self-care. Or I've said, hey, have you taken lunch yet? You should go take lunch, right? And again, that's me defining that care of themselves for them. So I am definitely a guilty person of that. So no one can define what taking care of you looks like or feels like or should be like. No one can do that but you. So before we wrap up here, so those are kind of like some key takeaways that I want to get back. But I didn't tell what I would go tell my younger self. So let me tell you what I would tell my younger self about self-care. Don't have forever. That would be the biggest thing. I think as going through my 20s and my 30s and feeling like I got all kind of time, the time just flies by. You do not have forever. And before you know it, now you got high blood pressure because you didn't take care of yourself when you were younger. You don't have a regimen. It gets harder to build in certain activities as you become more busy or have more responsibilities. Like working out, for example, like if you don't start that as a thing you do all the time, it is hard to get that started. As a daily task that you do or a daily thing that you do. So if I were to go back to my younger self and tell myself, you need to take care of you now, I would say you don't have as much time as you think you have. You don't have as much time as you think you have. Okay, so as we round this our chat out, and we're rounding the corner here, let's just take a few minutes to be grateful, because I do think self-care starts with gratitude, and we do this every day in our staff meeting, and I love that we do this. You have to have an attitude of gratitude, right? That's what I heard an old preacher say one time. You have to have an attitude of gratitude, right? So, but I do know that if you're in a place of gratitude, you bring other things to you. So we do this, like I said, every day in our staff meeting. We start all of our staff meetings off with what we call praise report, which means either giving kudos to other people, to a situation that happened, or sitting in a moment of gratitude. So let's just do our praise report as we close out, because I do think it's an element of self-care. So I'm going to start with Wee Sam. Wee Sam, let's hear your praise report.
My praise report for this week is similar to a few weeks ago. Again, this week I'm feeling really, really grateful to have a routine, especially after the pandemic threw everything off, as I'm sure it did for everyone else. I'm just grateful to be able to wake up and know that, okay, at this time I have this to do, and then this to do, and then this to do, and then go back to sleep and have a routine again, because that's something that's helpful to me, and it just makes me feel like what I'm doing and what I'm working towards is happening.
That's beautiful. How about you, Jasmine? What's your praise report?
My praise report is that I'm grateful to be a part of an amazing team that goes with the flow a lot of times. Shout out to Wee Sam. I know since she's here. But like Andrea mentioned, this week it's been a busy for AAP, and definitely next week is going to be another busy week because we have 2 events on the same day. But definitely, as we're preparing for this event, having some colleagues that are just go with the flow, like tell me what you need and I'll do it. Because I know I'm bad at delegating. Everyone knows that. So I'm grateful for having that supportive team this week, and definitely next week, because I know they're always great.
I couldn't agree more, Jasmine. I think my praise report is the same. Just if I had to stand back in the week, this week is probably one of the first times I was able to stand back out of my business for such a long time. And I am so grateful to Jasmine and Wee Sam and Alyssa and Sarah and Casey and Christine. I'm trying see, that's why they tell you not to start listing people, because you mess up. Just everybody. I'm so grateful to everyone for standing in the gap. We had a really busy week and I was out of pocket. Shouts out to Capital One Mentor Program. Happy to be a part of that. And have really exciting mentors too. I met them today. Amazing. I'll shout them out later. I'll shout them out when I know they're comfortable with me shouting them out. So, but shout out to them. But I was out of pocket for most of the week, most of the time during the week. And the team just kept everything moving. And it was one of the rare times that I ever get to see where I don't have to be present for things to continue. And that's a sign of our growth. I mean, we haven't always had that for the last 13 years. Shouts out to our birthday, September 27th, 2007. It's very rare that I'm able to be that far apart from the business and still haven't continued to work, which is the way that it should be. But it's just that I haven't had that much experience with it. So I just wanted to say I'm just grateful for an incredible team of people, incredible hardworking team of people who, quite frankly, love our clients as much as I do. So with that, let's bring everybody back in. We'll do some farewells. Casey, thank you so much for being our producer. We really appreciate you. Really good job. Everybody have a great week and take some time for self-care this week. All right. See you next Friday.